Hey everybody, welcome to another prepping video. If you've seen my previous videos, you know I've done my bug out bag and my first incarnation of my get home bag, but that's kind of in a state of change right now. But I wanted to talk about my family bug out bag. Now, if you've seen my bug out bag video, you know I'm a little bit challenged by the bug out philosophy. At least it doesn't really work for me in my situation particularly well. I'm kind of geared more towards a bug in situation with a fallback, with the fallback being the leaving home. So I have kind of my personal bag that has the things that I'd need. But then I've got a couple of family bags too as well that are just, it's kind of my disaster kit for the basement, but it could very easily be slung over, say, my wife's shoulder or put in the car or taken with us on the go. And I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about it. Being in the Midwest, this is also tornado country, so it works on a lot of different levels. And have it in a backpack just in case we do need to go. But it's built around the same philosophy you'd see with a lot of other things about the things we'd need if we had to pick up and go in a hurry. Um, Emergency Essentials is actually a company that I think very highly of. I order quite a few things from them. But I have lots of storage avenues for water. I also have water purification, but I keep a lot of bottled water. I have places where I have bottled water, so we just need storage. Get into first aid here in a little bit, but in a disaster situation, in many cases, unless you're talking about Big Brother, FEMA helicopters, or anything like that, it's better to be seen than not to be seen. So one of the things I've included, and it doesn't mean you have to use it, is a reflective vest. This can be, you can be easily seen from air. You can very easily be seen from great distances. I would really recommend having something. Also at night, should a flashlight get shown at this from great distances, it'll glow. Goggles. Now, insofar as I wear glasses, these aren't very helpful for me. But for my wife, if we're in a kind of a debris situation, where she needs eye protection. I have a little bit of eye protection just by what I'm wearing, but she doesn't. So these are really meant for her. Water purification. This is again a Ketadin, or however you say it, water purifier with all of the tubing and the fun stuff, and it'll connect directly to the Lexan bottles, which you'll see more of here in a little bit. And I don't plan on using this. I hope I don't have to use it. But in a pinch, these are very much worth having and should be a part of any prepper's disaster kit or anybody's home disaster kit. If you're worried about the bacteriological content of your water, this is something you really should have. Now, in terms of if you're worried about chemical contamination, then don't drink whatever that is, because these filters, which are usually activated carbon filters, they really won't do much for chemicals. But there are, frankly, very few. Even the water treatment plant in the city that you live in, frankly, doesn't do much for chemicals. They just, from a biological standpoint, it's just not going to get caught. Work gloves. First aid kit. Also in here, ponchos for everybody. Again, these are El Cheapos. You don't have to spend a lot of money to do a lot of prepping and to have a lot of things kind of handy. These were $1. They're just El Cheapo ponchos. They probably won't last very long, but in a pinch where you may only need a poncho for a few hours, this is a great thing to keep you dry or keep your kids dry. In the very same vein, space blankets. Again, these are not meant to last you very long, but in a pinch, if you're going to need to stay warm for overnight or maybe over 2 nights, these are worth their weight in gold. They're very light, they're very small, they're very cheap. And shame on anybody that doesn't have at least a small handful of these for themselves or their family. This bag is kind of a work in progress, so we'll move into some of the other parts of it here. This is a small charger for phones. You won't get many you won't get many calls out of this, but if you can make that one emergency call, or frankly, what's much smarter is to make that emergency text message. That, for example, during September 11th, this is one of those trite but true stories now. During September 11th, the phone networks were just jammed. They weren't down necessarily. They were just overloaded with the volume of traffic, couldn't keep up. But text messages got through, so don't forget about text messaging. I have small radio, and I'm going to talk about that here in a second. Headphones. Again, I wear glasses, so I have glasses cleaners. Pen and paper. Again, I'm a big fan of this. Keep pen and paper handy. You never know when you're going to have to leave a note on your front door, on somebody else's front door, on your car, telling people where you're at, where you're going, or what you've done. I have two of these. They're very small flashlights, but they're LED glow sticks, and they will flash. They're also whistles. These are nice to have around. They're too expensive in nearly every store where you can find them. I picked these up on clearance. I think they were just changing the packaging, and I got them for $1 a piece. If you can find these, they're worth having. You can't really change the batteries in them, but they do glow. The kids love them. So if you're in a situation where your kids are afraid, or you're afraid and you don't want your kids to be afraid, these are a nice thing to have. Something else I have in here. Another crank flashlight. Water purification. I'm not a big fan of the iodine tablets. They taste terrible, even though this has the counteracting pill that's supposed to take out the iodine taste. These are, if you have to use them, these are okay, but I don't recommend them. I like the old adage of 2 is 1 and 1 is none, so I have a backup if I need it, but I'm not particularly a fan. Maglite. Again, batteries are out of it right now. Just trying to keep them good. Flashlights are worth having. The more flashlights you have, the better. Some fire starting ability. In this case, it's matches. I have another crank radio. This one's not that great, but it does have the weather stations on it, so it's okay. And it does work. It is crank. Glow sticks. I won't pull them all out. I have a ton of glow sticks. These are worth their weight in gold. Get them. Get the lot of them. Buy them by the case if you can. They're a lot cheaper by the case. Buy them in onesies and twosies. They're really quite expensive. Also, if you can buy them in bulk, say cheaper than dirt, pick them up. Make sure they're kind of the military use ones. Some of the more Halloween standard, the non-industrial grade ones, don't last very long, even in their packaging. But something else I wanted to talk about, and of course I have spare batteries in there as well. I just picked up a new emergency radio. It's a crank radio, it's a solar radio, digital tuning, which I really like. It's got the internal AM antenna, it's got the external FM antenna. It's got an LED, kind of see there a little bit. It's also got kind of a lane flasher. I don't know why that's on there. But in addition to all of that, one of the things that it does, and again, I'm kind of coming back to something I talked about before, it will charge your cell phone. I now have a crank or solar method for charging a cell phone. These are great radios to have. They're not cheap. This is one of the few expensive things I have. This is about $50. Occasionally you can find them on clearance. Every once in a while they'll change the packaging at Radio Shack, and that's when you should pick one of these up. And it's a great sounding radio. The actual voice quality is very good. In the basement, it'll pick up all my local Chicago AM stations. And so I very much recommend one of these. Again, this is kind of an El Cheapo, sharper image quality radio. It's in a pinch, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. This radio is actually transferring and going into my Get Home bag, because actually after watching other videos, I realized that that's something that I really was lacking. So again, highly recommended on this. But I also have kids. Something I wanted to go over real quick are my kid bug out bags. Again, these aren't necessarily meant for hiking across the wilderness, but they have some things in it. They have water storage. We've got these little emergency whistles. Yeah, there's a compass on it, and it's got 5 little things on it, a signal mirror. It's mostly junk. But the whistle on it, the one thing that I've trained my boys with, is if you get separated from us, blow the whistle. Again, I'm not really worried about the black helicopters here, so that's not the situational aspect of it. Is presuming that it's a disaster and presuming that we're not, being hunted by, the CIA or the Army when martial law has been declared or some crap like that. So we've trained the boys. Keep this on you. Blow the whistle if you get separated from us. I'm sure it would get kind of irritating if they were just blowing the whistle. Another poncho for them. Small flashlight. Couple of light sticks. Another space blanket. The one thing we haven't got in here yet are the entertaining things, and frankly, I should have brought them down. They're upstairs. I've got some coloring books and some crayons. The coloring books were $1 each at Meijer. The crayons are the crayons we've been collecting from going to restaurants, so they'll have something they can do. Even if they're a little bit older, that can still be fun. I'm going to pick up a couple of comic books and have them in there. Have some Uno cards or playing cards. Something to keep the kids entertained, something to keep them kind of thoughtful. Even if we end up picking up a couple of action figures or something, just El Cheapos that we can throw in there. Really quickly, want to talk about first aid. I've got the first aid kit that's been augmented a little bit. But it's, again, a pretty standard first aid kit. I've added some antidiarrheals and some shears and some bigger bandages. This is a little more geared towards, unlike my bug out bag that's really more geared towards wound care, this is really more geared towards kind of the ailments that you're going to get if you're kind of staying in place. You're probably not eating good, you may have digestive issues, so you got the antidiarrheals, got vitamins, have, the basic wound care stuff, but I'm trying to think more broadly with this kind of first aid kit. Another Israeli battle dressing. If you've seen my previous videos, I'm a huge fan of these. These are cheap and they're wonderful, especially if you shoot by yourself, especially if you might find yourself in a situation where you're treating yourself. But I have a big kit here. And again, it's a good basement kit. It'd be good to throw in the van. It's not necessarily meant to be something where you're on the go with. N95 particulate respirators. Again, these are not perfect, but they're worth having. I've got a couple of boxes of those. Some wound closures, the strip wound closures. More of those. Lots of bandages, lots of gauze. Lots of ice packs. If you're injured, for example, somebody faints. You can take one of these, pop it, get it cold, put it right here at the base of their neck. That's the base of their spinal column. That'll keep them awake, keep them from fainting and going unconscious till help arrives, or while you're treating them, trying to figuring out what's going on. These are very helpful to have. They keep swelling down. Swelling is going to be a big problem. In Joplin, Missouri, a lot more people were injured by the very small things that added up into infections and kind of worsened over time, where if they had been treated very minimally right away, they would have been in much better shape. Anyway, thank you very much. This is all a work in progress, particularly the family bag. There's still a lot of things that need to be done with that and a lot of direction to go in. So if you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments. Thanks a lot.